I got one earring, the other one,
Okay.
I lost the other one, go ahead.
No, I just, do you have a dump station over there?
No, what I'm gonna tell you is, when you're ready, you come up, put you on the site, you dump on the site. I closed the dump station down completely. Don't let anybody know that. You're welcome to come up, let me know, tell my son.
Thank you.
We'll put you on the site, you dump, okay?
Yeah, well, I'd rather give someone local, you know, the $20 they, you know, we have an RV.
No, I had to close the dump station. We found beer cans in there, everything else.
Good, he's here.
People don't give a damn. When it's not theirs, they don't care.
I'm Jenny, nice to meet you. Nice to see you. I'm Jenny.
Hi, Jenny, Sarah Sanson.
Nice to meet you.
We want lights on.
Wrong one?
Yeah.
Starts getting darker.
Hey Doug.
With it being
Hello.
6 o'clock on Thursday, September 5th, I call to order the meeting of the Webster Finance Committee. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business is approval of our minutes. We have draft minutes from July 11th, 2019. I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I called Courtney because, just to get my names spelled right, those changes. All right,
Which is
thank
that.
you.
Do I have a motion?
Oh, yeah, sorry, second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Uh,
All those
Aye.
opposed? Approval of the minutes passes. The next item we have is a member update. So we did receive a letter from Sean Williams, and he was resigning his post on the Finance Committee. That was effective as of last month. But in the meantime, we did get 2 new appointments by the moderator. The first is Jennifer Finley, thank you. And the second is Christopher Markowitz. Markevich, I'll say that better next time.
Either way.
So if you want to just go around and introduce ourselves quickly to them, and then we'll just move on. We'll start with you,
Laura Backus.
Sarah Sansom.
Nick Adamopoulos.
Mike Fenimore.
Matt Fitton.
Oh, Doug Willardson.
And then Courtney's our secretary. So I'll get you guys a lot of information over the next couple of days. We do have a special town meeting, not a special town meeting, we have an annual town meeting in October that we'll discuss later on in the meeting. But any questions that you guys ever come up with, just let me know, we'll answer those. Next item is the town administrator.
Can we get like a 2-minute like bio or
Oh,
just
sure.
tell us a little bit about yourselves?
It's a good idea, Doug.
I'm a CPA. I worked for the city of Newport for 6 years and the state of Rhode Island for 7. Moved to Webster in 2011, and I attended plenty of town meetings in Newport, so I enjoyed actually knowing what was going on, and I thought, well, I live here, I should know what's going on. And because of my background, I decided to meet with Doug and volunteer. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Markevich, I've been in Webster my whole life, 54 years. I recently changed jobs. I was VP and Regional Ops Manager for Ethan Allen, and now work for UMass Memorial Healthcare as a Business Operations Manager. So needed something to do as a hobby.
Wow, there's fishing or golfing.
One hell of a hobby.
You could do this too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item is the town administrator report.
Yeah. So I emailed a little bit late, but the year-to-date budget report through the end of August. I mean, it's still very early in the year. Courtney and I went through it, and there wasn't anything big that I was concerned about. One that was kind of high was the custodial line for the town hall buildings, the overtime for that. So we had a custodian, quit, he took a new job, so for a little bit of time, we had to cover that with overtime. And then also, some meetings have been going on in the library, and those have been going past the regular time, and so, custodians had to stay on staff for those. I don't think those actually should be coming from that line, so we're gonna, adjust that, so that won't be as high over. But besides that, things look pretty good. A couple areas I was excited to see a little bit of savings, so, but we're only 2 months in, so it's okay.
I have a question, it was more general, so items that were like dues and subscriptions, I would expect to see 100%, and I know we are kind of straight line on this right now, but
Mhm.
some of the things that were, salary or, incentive basis seems high for the period, do you know?
Yeah, so some of the incentives are paid out in July, the sick leave and the vacation. So those are the ones that are in the selectmen's budget, and they were like 80%. So those, actually, whatever's left in those is a savings, so that's available.
Under the data processing,
In the
so
library.
the computer equipment maintenance, we've already expended 121,000.
Yeah, so that's our munis payment, so
Okay.
that comes in the beginning of the year. And that is like 114,000 or something.
Through the chair.
Yes.
I thought we were gonna get rid of Munis.
No, there hasn't been any discussion on getting rid of munis.
Not that all the towns do?
A lot of towns, yeah. And it's a national company, it's well recognized, and
I did notice something, that if there was no budget, instead of a divide by zero issue, or error, it issued 100% instead of being over budget. I mean, the ones that were in there were not much,
Yeah, yeah.
dollars, but that was something to take note as we're looking at.
yeah, I don't think we can change that, that's just the way the report comes. Maybe someone could change it, but I don't know how to easily change that. But, yeah, if there was no budget and we spent $100 out of it, yeah, it shows it as 100% rather than NA or something.
But also, we have to keep an eye on those, if it's at $1,000, it would
Yeah.
still show it up at 100, even though it's at $1,000.
Yep.
Yep, I'm sorry.
Through the chair, under library expenses, there's a data processing. Is that also part of like computer maintenance, or?
So that is for us to be a part of CWRs, that's our annual payment.
So that's an annual fee thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a question.
I noticed, there was a radio or some kind of communication for something that was not budgeted for, or maybe it was budgeted on a different line.
Through the chair, I think she's referring to the communication, that new tower.
The
Surveillance.
surveillance
That's right,
camera?
Surveillance camera, sorry.
Yeah, so that was appropriated at town meeting, so that is that showing up on the report?
Yeah.
Do you guys see it?
I found it earlier.
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah, so I need to fix that. It is, because we approved money at town meeting for that, so it comes from a different fund.
Have we resolved the electricity credits and I know we were making numerous transfers last year.
So we have resolved the net metering credits. However, the streetlights are still not completely, they're not 100% reconciled. So just National Grid is a big company, it takes forever to do things. So technically the project wasn't completed until, the vast majority of the lights were done like last November. And then there was a second phase with a few that were still remaining. And so they didn't actually start reconciling until this summer. and they said it could be up to 6 months. So I'm thinking like November, we'll get it all straightened out.
But
And,
the credits for the town buildings, that's all been resolved?
yep, that is resolved.
Madam Chair, are there opportunities for interest incentives for getting the loan? Could you give us a heads up?
Not really, I mean,
Do they have no incentive
to hurry,
correct?
no.
Any other questions concerning the general fund? Does anyone have any comments or questions concerning the sewer and water fund? Doug, when are we doing the smoke to the
Yeah.
sewer, correct?
Yeah, so the infiltration and flow study, they're doing a smoke test. That actually is probably gonna be completed tomorrow.
Oh, they've already started it.
Yeah, they're almost done. I guess that's a good sign that smoke wasn't coming into your house.
On the sewer fund, the superintendent's at 27% of budget. Did we,
So the superintendent is now superintendent of water and sewer.
oh, so it's
I
an
combined those
allocation?
positions, yeah. So probably the full amount is coming from sewer.
Until
and-
such time as this is used up, and then
Yeah.
they'll lop it into the.
So next year, when the budget is done, we'll put it all in one line.
No more 50/50?
I mean, we may split it like that. Actually, that's probably best to keep it,
Separate,
yeah,
a lot better for the bookkeeping.
yeah.
Sorry.
Of course, any other questions on the water and sewer fund?
Just out of curiosity, Mr. Chairman, do we lose the sewer superintendent or the water?
The sewer superintendent left, so Greg has been here a year and a half, was it maybe 2? So yeah, he's now superintendent over both.
Okay.
Through the chairman. What seems to be the problem that we can't maintain a sewer superintendent for more than 2 years?
So, you might be
Training them and
thinking
getting them
water.
better jobs or what?
No, the former sewer superintendent, he'd been there for 6 or 7 years. There was a lot of turnover on the water side, and that was probably because there's a lot of angry phone calls, and no one wanted to take those. But we hired Greg in January, December, about a year and a half ago, a little over a year and a half ago. Prior to that, we had Woodard and Curran was a vendor that was providing those services, and they provided it for 4 or 5 years. Do you recall? Dorn was there for a long time. So I don't think that's a lot of turnover in 6 years. We've had 2.
Usually the average is 10, isn't it?
It all depends. But years ago, there was a lot of turnover in water.
Massive turnover.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions concerning the water and sewer funds?
I have a number already.
Okay.
So, is there any update on cannabis stores, given that we were using?
Yeah.
We
Yeah, so the selectmen approved a host agreement for one of them, and they have met with the planning board staff, and they're going before planning board for their site plan review. The other location is, I send a lot of interested people their way, and there's not anyone, we've met with 3 companies as staff that have shown interest in it, but they have, as of yet, to enter into a lease or negotiate a lease with any of the property owners up there. No, at the Town Forest Road location. The Kmart Plaza is moving forward. very recently, I had someone else contact me about a different location up on Town Forest Road. And they said they have not entered into a lease, but they are pursuing one different than some of the other locations that people have been looking at previously. We'll see what happens. Overall, we budgeted $150,000 for revenue from marijuana. If this Monroe Associates going into Kmart comes in and they start in January, February, I think we'll still get that fairly easily.
That 150 included the guaranteed 3% plus the 3% tax, correct?
Yeah,
For the 2 licenses.
yeah. So even if we only get one in and only for half a year, I mean, I don't know if we'll get a full 150,000, but I think we'll be pretty good.
That 150 include the host agreement for the grow facility?
No, that's separate.
It's separate.
Even if we fall short there, some of the other revenue lines are coming in fairly well, so overall we'll be okay.
Any other questions for the town administrator?
Just a couple other, not necessarily directly related to the budget report. You may have heard about Charlton and their IT woes. So they had some ransomware that's holding them hostage and they really can't do anything. So our IT director is very much concerned about that. So we recently completed an IT security audit with Acuity Technologies. So they haven't given us the full final report yet, but essentially they said, you know, there's nothing drastic that is a big gaping hole, but also we are working on getting quotes to store more of our data off-site. So if we did have some ransomware or some sort of attack, it would be stored off-site and much easier to replicate what we had. So rather than being out for months, we could get it back in a day or so. So that might be a little more money, but not drastic amounts, and I think we can find it in the existing budget.
In their audit, have they developed policies and procedures as well as guidance, or?
I don't believe so. So that might be something we can work on. Don't open emails.
Well,
that you
I
don't know
mean,
the
some kind of guidelines, you know, that's for public information.
And it's happening a lot more. I know last year CPCS for the Commonwealth got a ransomware, and they were actually storing everything off-site. And what happened was they kept rebooting the system. It kept hitting all the computers over and over again. So they had a difficult time. They were down for I think a few weeks before they got their email and servers back up.
Yeah. So the State Department of Revenue, their gateway system where towns enter their information to them, they haven't announced that it was an attack or anything like that, but it has been down for this entire week. And so they just emailed us today saying, we were able to go back to our backup as of Monday evening. And so if you did anything in the system during this week, it wasn't accepted. And so we had to redo it. So I'm surprised at how frequent this is happening.
Because they can mask their email addresses. It looks like it's coming from you, but it's really not.
Yeah, and we've had things that people, they look at it, think it's a real email and answer it, and it's obviously a phishing email or something that shouldn't be opened, and yet people open it. So.
Any other items?
I think we'll cover the rest
Okay.
later.
On the old business, an update for the water filtration plant.
I don't have an update right now.
Yeah, so Matt, the piece of equipment that was back ordered, do you remember what it's called? Because I can't ever. So, back order for 10 weeks, got delivered, was damaged, had to send it back, and then so it's another several weeks. So it looks like it'll be operational in December. So all of our additional costs for it being delayed are going to be borne by the contractor, and we'll work with them on any liquidated damages for any other costs that might be associated with being delayed.
Is there a substantial, is it just a piece that's gonna go into the existing structure, or is it holding up?
I mean, there's some stuff that has to be piped or tied to it, but everything else is pretty much
It's
done
all
except for that.
right.
So once it gets in, few things to make it operational, and they'll be done.
So the changing season won't affect it?
No, it's all inside, it's all pretty good. It is disappointing, because we have another flushing cycle in the fall. Ideally, we would have been flushing with clean water, but it'll be the regular water.
On the new business, so I believe there's been a school building committee put together, correct? Do you know when
Yes.
they meet?
They haven't set up a meeting yet. They were trying to do one for actually next Monday, but I have not received the email. That's just what they asked me.
So we usually have liaisons that would go to these big capital projects and then report back to the committee. So with this being the new biggest project in town, is there anyone that would like to volunteer to be the liaison to attend those meetings and then report back to the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to do what you guys did to me and nominate the new people.
Second.
I think we can also wait to do that until we get a better idea of what their meeting schedule will be. So someone doesn't say yes and then can't attend.
Yeah, so I asked them to do them on Monday nights if at all possible.
Okay.
But it is a huge group. It's a dozen people, so trying to coordinate schedules, it may not fall on the night that I hope it does.
Is there anyone that would like to volunteer for the position? If they're on Monday nights, is that,
And how many nights a month?
I would, on average, it won't be more than one.
Oh, I'll volunteer.
that's a low average.
Yeah.
I'll volunteer.
Okay, so if you would like to let her know when the first
Yeah,
meeting
I'll
will be.
let you know.
Okay.
Ultimately, just come back and kind of, if there's anything that jumps out that they're going overboard or anything along those lines, over budgets, but,
Okay.
I mean, I will also be at the meeting, the town accountant, Tim, will be at those meetings, so, but it is nice to have a finance liaison. Can I give a 2-second update on that? We will have to have a town meeting vote to approve the project before March. That's the MSBA's requirement. So that means we'll probably have a special town meeting in January or February. And
if that passes, does it go on to May?
no, so if that passes, then we design the building.
Okay.
And I have to double check. I'm not sure if by May we need the appropriation for the design costs, or if we have to have the appropriation for the entire cost, which we don't have a firm number because it hasn't been designed and bid out yet. So I have to find that out. But the design costs are probably gonna be between $600,000 to $1 million. So that's a lot of money for just to design.
How much,
Is this gonna be a bond-funded project,
It will.
but the design costs may not be bond-funded?
I think the design will be as well,
Oh, okay.
yeah, because we don't have $1 million
No.
sitting around.
how much is the state, going to recuperate? We'll get that.
It depends on the projects, but Park Ave was almost 75%.
Yeah, we were lucky with Park Ave.
Yeah, I mean, most communities I've never heard of a community getting less than 50%. So, I don't know, if we planned on 60, we'd probably be
Yeah, to the
pleasantly
chair,
surprised.
50, 60, even 75%. When is the camel's back broken with all these added expenses to the town taxpayer?
Well, that's a question for town meeting, and luckily they get to vote on it. So we are doing our best to make, when the debt comes on for that project, we want to coincide when debt from another project goes away. So the middle school project expires in, I thought it was 2024 or 2025. And so in the perfect world, when that expires, the debt for the high school renovation would come on.
We were supposed to be doing that presently, when instead of letting the debt expire, we were going to roll it over to a new project, because people have been paying that right along, and not increasing or adding more debt to what we have. So this project coming on 4 years ahead, do we have anything that's going to be off the books for that 4 years to compensate for it?
Yeah. Well, the project's not gonna be completed for a long time, and it's gonna take 2 years to design and 2 years to
We're
build.
still gonna need money for it.
Yeah, right, and the design money we will at the beginning. We haven't borrowed for a project, and I don't know if we have borrowed for one since I've been here. Like, we've been trying to pay with cash on hand rather than borrowing to avoid adding a burden.
Now, you've done a fantastic job with the budget. I'm not complaining about that. I'm just saying, there's gotta be a point where enough is enough. We've gotta get a breather somewhere, somehow.
Yeah, and that point comes at a different point for every single person. And so, based on averages and comparing to other communities, our debt load is not, is actually in range and in a good position. I think our debt as a total percent of the budget was like 6%, and anything below 10% is considered appropriate. But yeah, I'm very cognizant that any project that we do that is gonna cost taxpayers more money, and we have a large section of our community that can't afford large increases in their taxes.
Is it gonna be a brand-new building, or they just renovate?
It's gonna be a renovation, yeah. So this is not like the new Somerville High School where it's $200+ million. It'll be a lot smaller than that.
Through the chair, just to clarify, when we vote to appropriate monies, but we haven't, do we bond it, or we're paying interest along the way, right?
Yeah,
So that's really what we have to budget for until it is bonded,
right,
and then at that point, we pay interest and principal.
yeah. I mean, you can set it up, right, so a lot of communities, they'll just do bond anticipation notes until the project's completed, and then we have a firm amount that we know we need to borrow.
With the bond yields at historic lows, relatively.
Pretty low, yeah.
Is there any reason to consider refunding?
So we looked at those a year ago, and we did do some. We rolled them into our state qualified bond act, so not only did we get a new rate because bond interest rates were low, but we also got the state's bond rating instead of our own, which is a little bit better, so that brought down the cost to the town.
The next item is the audit committee. So look back at last year's agenda for this month. Did we meet at this point of the year?
I thought we met in December?
October. It was in the fall.
The first meeting was in,
We usually meet until the audit is complete, right?
No,
No, we
but we
met-
had an anticipation just, we had never,
Yeah, the
Met
committee had
with
never
auditor.
met, but yeah, so, the auditors were on site in July. They'll come back in December to do their last of the field work, and then the audit should be completed in January. And so I don't necessarily think
So
we
we'll
need to
just
meet
hold off
before
until,
January,
okay. So last year's meeting was just for the introductory meeting.
yeah,
We're
Well-
utilizing the same company, correct?
yes.
and also we were talking with them regarding, you know, any concerns that we had
Yeah.
that they ought to be looking at,
Mhm.
where we addressed our IT issues or concerns. So it might be good to have a preliminary meeting, just to get their feedback as well.
Yeah. If you want, I can find a date when they're gonna already be here. But they are planning on being here till December,
Early December or late?
early. Actually, maybe it was Christmas Eve. No.
If it's before the 13th, I'd like to be there to talk to them too.
Well, it's the audit committee.
Yeah, but even though,
So when they, so look at the date for October, I mean, December, once it gets closer, and then we'll schedule a meeting. Now, financial policies, I know at the budget, at some point before the budget that you had gone through and said, you know, it's, like some of our ranges were kind of off.
Yeah,
And it's been 2 years since we put those policies together. So, I know I was going to circulate the current policies that we have in place and then maybe come back with any revisions or updates that should be made. Have the selectmen made any updates?
not to the financial policies. So the only one I have a concern about is one of the policies says that a certain amount should be spent on capital each year. And it was a large amount. It was, I can't remember, like 3% of the town budget or something like that, which we don't typically do. And I think because we had done a lot of projects and we have a lot of new buildings, there wasn't necessarily a need to budget for renovations to any buildings. So that's the only one I think we should look at and determine. I think the purpose is to make sure that we're budgeting enough for capital expenses.
And we do have the 5-year plan in place, so we can at least
Yeah.
see what's coming on.
Right.
So, we have the October town meeting scheduled for October 21st, which is a Monday night. Do we know what time? Is it gonna be at 6?
It'll be at 7.
7,
We got some feedback that 6 was a little early.
really? So the selectmen are voting on, they're closing the warrant on the 16th, they're voting upon it?
They'll close the warrant on the 16th.
No,
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it closes tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah,
and they're
and then-
voting on the 16th. And this is gonna roll into our, I guess, our next item. So, to make sure, we don't have to do a public hearing because it's not concerning the budget. But we do wanna have a meeting in time so that we can vote on the warrants and make sure that they're able to get into the guide that gets handed out at the meeting. I know that our next scheduled meeting would be October 10th, but I spoke to the town administrator prior. Is everyone available for October 3rd, which would be the Thursday beforehand?
Through the chair,
Yes.
will that give the town administrator enough time to get that into the guide?
I was told that would be enough time.
Yeah, right, so actually the 3rd's pretty ideal. I have a meeting in Revere at 1:30, but I should make it back by 6.
Okay. And we'll just do our normal October meeting at that point.
Yeah, so we can,
And then we'll also meet, just so everyone knows, we usually meet, at 6, half hour before the meeting or an hour before the town meeting.
Usually an hour.
So we're meeting at 6 o'clock on October 21st also, prior to the town meeting on the 16th.
the selectmen are voting September 16th to
we're not,
sign the warrant.
instead of holding our October 10th meeting, we're gonna do it on October 3rd,
I thought, isn't the town meeting October 10th, or is it?
21st.
It's the 21st.
I'll make that a motion, October 3rd. Someone will second it.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Could we instruct our secretary on the 21st to see if we can get that little room?
Oh, yes, the room next to the auditorium. Does anyone have any other business?
If I can, I wanted to ask a question going back to the school and, how has the school transportation with the foster new law been going? Looked okay on the line, I was curious.
Right, so, yeah, it did come in over budget last year, but we were able to make some transfers to cover it. There is a new law that's coming out that will reimburse us for, I think Monique said 25% of those costs. So that's actually something we'll have to adopt at town meeting, so that will be one of the warrant articles. But sorry, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I thought it was roughly $200,000 over the estimated budget for last fiscal year. And we're kind of, and I increased the budget by that much, so cross our fingers it all works. And if we're getting 25% reimbursement, then maybe we'll even come out better than the budget.
So there are a lot of kids going to
Other-
academic primary.
yeah.
Well, we don't cover the cost for sending them out, we cover the cost for bringing them here, correct?
Correct. That's my understanding.
'Cause we're the primary location, we have to pay to bring them to Webster and then back to the foster.
I thought it was the other way around too. I thought if they were a foster person living in Webster, but you had been going to school in another community, we bust you back to.
I think it's the other
Fair
way
to say
around.
it's the other way around. I feel like the town, because you don't lose your town residents when you get put into a foster care, that town's still responsible for your schooling. So the transportation costs would fall on.
Alright, so that, yeah,
Webster.
so if a Webster child was in
Like
whatever.
Orange, they would have to pay, we'd have to pay to bring him back and
From
forth from
Orange
Orange.
to Webster.
I know Monique had said they were talking, some towns are trying to get maybe a bus that was going to the same area to pick up kids and just drop
Yeah,
them off
do
at several schools and share the expense.
Yeah, that's a lot of coordinating, but probably worth it.
It's a big expense for people,
Yeah.
yeah.
A couple, can I throw some things out there? We were awarded a Green Communities grant of like $207,000 last week. So that is to pay for upgrades to the boilers at the high school and LED retrofit in town hall and the police station. So to me, I'm like, why is the police station need an LED retrofit? But we had an engineer come in and they did the analysis, and it's a quick return on investment, so it's worth it to us. So both those three projects will be moving forward. We will need an appropriation at town meeting, because the boiler replacement doesn't cover the full cost of it, but it's still very much worth it, because the boilers are on their last legs. We spend several $1,000s each year fixing them, so to replace them would be a big help.
And you said this is for the high school,
Yeah,
so they can incorporate it into the new design?
yeah, right. They would not only be used for 3 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
How old are the boilers in the high school?
I think they're original.
My memory serves correct, we were retrofitting them for oil and something else just 8 or 10 years ago, so that we could switch off. I don't know if it
I
was
don't
gas
know.
and oil or oil.
That may have happened, I don't know.
I think when we met with the school committee, they had said that the boilers were the biggest issue, because they were trying to fix one and then putting another one on, and by the time they fixed this one, because of the overuse of the other one, that one had broken down.
Yeah.
So they were kind of just, Mickey Mousing it back and forth, and the expense was just going through the roof.
Yeah, and when I talked to Monique, before the grant came out, she's like, we applied for that, like, cause we have a lot of issues there. Have we been awarded the money? It's a big concern for them. So $100,000 for that is awesome. Two other things, so, the assistant town accountant is out on extended medical leave. So Tim has been doing a lot of her work, which includes payroll. So I don't expect him to have free cash certified by the October town meeting. I don't think that's gonna cause us any issues, but I just wanted to make that clear, and also let you know that Tim is doing an awesome job covering 2 jobs. And,
Is that something we can outsource? Are we looking at any managed services in these types of roles?
yeah, so we have looked at payroll specifically, and there isn't a huge savings. There really is no savings, because you still have to do most of the work getting it ready, and then you have to send it over to like Harper's or another payroll service. When we looked at it, there was no savings, and it might even cost us more money.
I think we discussed that last year. Tim had said that it would actually be really difficult to get the information back and forth.
Yeah.
How it's getting put into the computer.
So like a payroll service like Harper's is like $70,000 annually, but you still have to have someone here on site put it in a format to send it over to them, and it's not that much different than what we're doing and processing it ourselves. The benefits of having a payroll service, though, are you have someone to blame if it goes wrong, and there's a lot of the laws with payroll are changing with whether it's FMLA or the new laws with paid medical leave, all those sorts of things.
Is the town exempt from the new FMLA law?
The paid leave, yes, we are.
Okay. So we don't have to start
No.
a fund to kind of do that.
No.
Through the chair, at what point are we gonna plan to get him some assistance?
So we've talked about that too, that, cause it's been a few weeks already, and, just hiring someone else is going, to not really save him time, cause he's gotta show them and basically do it with them for a few weeks before they're able to do it on their own, and by that time, someone would be back in the office. He doesn't feel like it makes sense to do it right now. We are looking to see if there's someone that knows our system, that's maybe retired from another community, that could come in and do it. But short of that, it doesn't make sense to hire a temp agency or even to train someone else in town hall to do it, because by the time that's done, we expect her to be back.
Okay.
Good to train someone else just for redundancy in general.
Yeah, so there's 3 people in the accounting office. They all have the ability to do it, but there's more than enough work for 3 people to do. So when there's only 2 doing it, it puts the other 2 behind.
Are all the schedules getting filed on time with the MDOR?
They will be. The next ones are not until the end of November. And so I don't want anyone to worry about that. Like, we meet every other week with our DOR rep, or he's invited every other week. He doesn't come all the time, but he's very much aware of our situation and thinks we're in a great position, so we are doing well.
We have one more, is that it?
Yeah, sorry. On September 23rd, we're having a downtown business meeting. The Finance Committee is welcome to attend. We're inviting all the business owners and all the property owners of Main Street to come. We're going to meet at Kretschmann's Brewery. We hope to inform everyone what we're doing, what we have done, what's going forward, and then we're also inviting Hudson, some representatives from their business association, because they've done a great job turning around their downtown. So they're gonna tell us what worked for them. When I met with them, it was very invigorating to see what they'd done. So hopefully that catches fire with our downtown community.
The new mural looks unbelievable.
It does look good. And we're trying to do a few things to clean up before that meeting. We're going actually on a walking tour at 5 p.m. So anyone can join us, and we're gonna walk the main street, see if there's things that we can do to improve, or if we have any ideas while we have a big group walking around.
Now, is there only one building remaining that needs to come down from that tornado?
Yeah, and that's coming down. The deadline is September 13th.
It's the deadline, so next week?
Yeah. So, and they took down the fence, and they're taking down the siding because the siding is like styrofoam. So if you crush that, it just flies everywhere. So they're trying to remove that first.
So I appreciate Hudson's involvement, but has there been any interaction with Putnam? Because they really did, I mean, everyone always brings it up, but I'm part of that community. It's unbelievable what they really do.
Yeah, so we, as a economic development committee, we went to Putnam, met with their business association leader, I forget what her official title was, and a lot of feedback, good feedback from her, and pretty much Hudson said the exact same thing. And really the secret was that it needs to be organic from the businesses and not necessarily the town trying to make it all happen, which I'm not trying to get out of work, but that if it's really gonna stick, that's what needs to happen.
And participation from our community. not
Yeah.
just- It's not a utility. And by the way, this Friday is First Friday, if you haven't been, though, there's, the downtown Putnam is just full of vendors and just lots of really great events. Good food.
I think Courtney wants me to stop talking, so I'm all done.
Got a hot date tonight.
It's with your daughter. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
1 second, I have a couple of things I'd like to bring up.
Go ahead.
First of all, through the chair, Mr. Administrator, I understand you're out planting flowers all over town. Is that true?
I don't know anything about that. Yeah. Yeah, I've planted a few flowers.
So you're responsible for the pots on all the different islands and?
Well, I'm responsible for everything, but so it's been a team effort. The custodians have been doing a lot of help. Did I mention that we had a custodian leave?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I was trying to fill in for a couple weeks while he was gone. So yeah, I went out and planted and watered some flowers.
Well, I would like to say thank you. You did a great job. And the other thing that I got to experience was the new Inspectional Services Office. That is phenomenal. So, I know you had a big part in that and your team, but Doug's really doing a fantastic job for the town. And I just, you need to be recognized.
Thanks, Matt. And I'll buy you lunch later.
So can I have a motion to officially add that recognition to our notes?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Yes.
I just want to make a recommendation for the financial policy review that maybe we have a subcommittee do that.
Okay. So you want to put a
I'd be happy to be a
subcommittee
participant in
together?
it.
Now the motion to adjourn,
I'll
okay?
just put it on, we'll figure it out at the next one. All right.
What was that?
Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Put a subcommittee together to go through the financial policies, so we'll talk about that the next meeting, put that committee together.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? See everybody October 3rd. Thank you. And I'll get both of you, I think I sent you guys, I'll send you the current budget.
Yeah.
Financial policies. We have guidelines for the committee that I'll get out. So you guys will get a bunch of email, you'll get an email with a bunch of attachments. okay? Yeah, you saw it's been crazy. It's been a crazy.
So I'm
Yeah, I got
I know,
Okay. For the same reason.
not here though.
No.
Well, you know, they put out a thing, they need help, I said.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn what's going on.
And you live on the lake as well?
I do.
So do I.
What street do you live on?
I live on South
They're
Pond,
black
Ernest
spots all
Street.
over town, Main Street, the
Ernest?
islands.
Okay, I'm on,
I just think you
Wawila
need to be
Park Road.
recognized.
I'm not sure about the roads, but
So
which
I'm right
part?
across the cove from Indian Ranch.
Indian Ranch, okay.
Yeah, in
Okay.
Reed Smith Cove.
So you're in
That's
the
where
middle pond, okay.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
So I'm on, so you have to go through Connecticut on 190.
Oh, really? To get to your house? Okay, all right. That's funny.
Well, we've been very happy here. And we came from